They found me 3 days after the massacre. I was still holding my rifle, barrel down, sitting on a cargo crate in the ruins of Outpost Keller. The bodies were cold. The blood was dry. I hadn't moved. When Captain Rourke asked me what happened, I told him the truth. I let one of them go. He stared at me for a long time, then asked if I understood what that meant. I said yes. He asked if I'd do it again. I didn't answer. Because the real answer, the one that's kept me awake every night since, is that I don't know. What I do know is this: mercy has a price, and someone always pays it. It started on a Tuesday. That's the thing about war. It doesn't care about drama or timing. It just shows up whenever it wants, usually when you're exhausted and thinking about breakfast. I'd been on patrol for 6 hours, moving through the mining tunnels beneath Colony Vessa with my squad. Vessa was a nowhere rock, orbiting a dying star. Valuable only because its core had enough refined titanium to keep Earth's shipyards fed for another decade. We weren't supposed to be there, neither were the Kael'thar. The Kael'thar sovereignty had been expanding into contested zones for 8 months, swallowing up mining colonies, orbital stations, anything with strategic value. They didn't negotiate, they didn't warn. They arrived, claimed territory through what they called preemptive integration. And if you resisted, they erased you, efficiently, clinically. 317 human settlements had gone dark in less than a year. No survivors, no messages, just silence. Earth's response was what it always was: too little, too late. By the time the UEDF sent grunt units like mine to defend the outer colonies, the Kael'thar had already dug in. We weren't soldiers, not really. I'd been a construction foreman in Detroit before the draft lottery pulled my number. My sergeant, Vickers, had been a high school teacher. Ramirez was a nurse. Okoye worked in her family's restaurant. We were civilians in combat gear, thrown into a war we barely understood, fighting an enemy we'd never seen until they were killing us. The tunnels under Vessa were cold, not freezing, but the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and stays there. Our helmets projected thermal overlays, but they were glitchy, kept picking up residual heat from the mining equipment and flagging it as contacts, false alarms every 10 minutes. After a while, you stopped trusting the tech. You just moved, checked corners, watched shadows, and hoped your instincts were faster than their weapons. We were halfway through Section D when Vickers called for a halt. Movement ahead, 50 meters, single contact. I crouched low, rifle up, scanning the tunnel. The overlay showed a humanoid shape pressed against the wall near an access hatch, not moving, not armed according to the scanner. Could have been a civilian, could have been a trap. Rodriguez Chen flank left. Vickers whispered through the comm. Morgan, you're with me. Center approach. Ramirez, Okoye, hold rear. We moved in standard formation, smooth and quiet. My heart was hammering, but my hands were steady. That was muscle memory now. Fear didn't stop you from doing the job. It just made you do it faster. As we closed the distance, the figure became clearer. Kael'thar. Female, if their biology worked the way intelligence claimed. She was slumped against the wall, one arm clutched against her side, breathing shallow. No weapon visible, no armor. Just a dark gray uniform, torn at the shoulder, and a face that looked almost human if you didn't count the ridge of bone along her brow and the faint shimmer of her skin, like oil on water, shifting between blue and violet in the low light. Vickers stopped 10 feet away, rifle trained on her. Don't move. She didn't. Her eyes, large, black, no visible pupil, locked onto his, then shifted to me. There was something in that look. Not fear, not defiance. Recognition, maybe, like she knew exactly how this would go. Chen, sweep the area, Vickers ordered. Rodriguez, check for explosives. They moved fast. I stayed focused on her, finger resting outside the trigger guard, breathing controlled. She was injured. I could see the dark stain spreading across her uniform now, slow but steady. Blood, or whatever they had instead. She wasn't a threat. Not in this state. Clear, Chen reported. No devices, Rodriguez added. Vickers lowered his rifle slightly but didn't relax. You speak standard? The Kael'thar's lips moved. Her voice was rough, but the words came out clear enough. Yes. Why are you here? Scouting party, ambushed. I was separated. How many in your unit? 12. They're dead. Vickers glanced at me, then back at her. Who killed them? You did. She said it without emotion. 3 days ago. Tunnel collapse. Section A. My squad was caught inside. I remembered that. We'd rigged charges to collapse a primary access route, cut off Kael'thar reinforcements during a skirmish. Command called it a tactical success. We'd sealed 20 enemy combatants in a tomb and never looked back. Vickers stepped closer. You're telling me you've been down here for 3 days? Injured? Alone? Yes. Why didn't you call for extraction? She looked at him like he'd asked why water was wet. And my unit is dead. Reinforcements are engaged elsewhere. I am expendable. That word, expendable, hung in the air like smoke. I'd heard it before. We all had. It was what command called us when they sent us into grinders like Vessa. But hearing it from her, spoken with that flat certainty, made it worse somehow, because she believed it. Completely. Vickers exchanged looks with the rest of the squad. No one said anything, but I could feel the tension shifting. We had rules of engagement. Wounded enemy combatants were to be detained and transferred to intelligence for interrogation. Standard procedure. But standard procedure assumed we had backup, transport, and a secure location. We had none of those. We were a 6-person recon unit in hostile territory, low on supplies, with 12 more hours before extraction. Bind her hands, Vickers said finally. We'll take her with us. Command can figure out what to do when we get topside. Rodriguez moved forward with zip ties. The Kael'thar didn't resist. She let him secure her wrists, didn't flinch when he pulled the ties tight. Her eyes stayed on me the whole time. What's your name? I asked. Don't know why. It just came out. She tilted her head slightly. Saerin. I'm Morgan. I know. She paused. You were at the northern barricade 7 days ago. You pulled your wounded back under fire. I watched through the scope. My stomach tightened. She'd been there, watching. Could have taken the shot. Didn't. Why didn't you kill me? You were doing your duty. So was I. There was no advantage in your death at that moment. Cold logic, no malice, no hesitation. That was the Kael'thar way. Every action calculated for maximum efficiency, no waste, no emotion, just math. We started moving again. Siren in the center of the formation, hands bound, moving slow because of the wound. She didn't complain, didn't ask for help, just walked, one step after another, bleeding quietly. An hour in, Ramirez pulled me aside. She's not going to make it to extraction if we don't stop that bleeding. Not our problem, Vickers muttered, but he didn't sound convinced. Ramirez ignored him, crouched down in front of Saerin. I need to see the wound. Saerin looked at her, then at Vickers, then back at Ramirez. Why? Because you're bleeding out, and I'm a medic. Let me look. I am expendable. I don't care. Let me look. For the first time, something flickered in Saerin's expression. Confusion, maybe. Like the concept of wasting resources on an enemy didn't compute. But she nodded. Ramirez peeled back the torn fabric carefully. The wound was deep, shrapnel, probably, from the tunnel collapse. It hadn't hit anything vital, but it was infected. Badly. Ramirez grimaced, pulled out her kit, Started cleaning it. This is going to hurt. I understand. Ramirez worked fast, applying coagulant gel, sealing the wound with a temporary patch. Siren didn't make a sound, didn't even tense, just stared at the wall, breathing steady, like pain was another variable to manage. When it was done, Ramirez sat back. You should be dead. Yes. Why aren't you? I don't know. We kept moving. The tunnels stretched on, empty and cold. Every junction looked the same. Every shadow felt like an ambush waiting to happen. Vickers was tense, checking his scanner every 30 seconds. Okoye kept glancing back at Saren, like she expected her to explode. 2 hours later, we found the bodies. They were Kelthar. 7 of them, sprawled in a service corridor, weapons still in their hands. No visible wounds, no blood, just dead. Vickers knelt beside one, checked for a pulse. Nothing. He looked up at Chen. What the hell happened here? Chen scanned the area with his medical kit. No toxins, no radiation, no trauma. He paused. It's like they just stopped. Saren's voice cut through the silence. They were executed. Everyone turned to look at her. By who? Vickers demanded. By my people. She said it like it was obvious. They failed their objective. Command terminated them remotely. The words hit like a punch. I stared at her, then at the bodies. Your own people did this. Yes. Why? They were compromised. Injured. Unable to complete their mission. Keeping them alive would waste resources. This is efficient. Ramirez stood up, fists clenched. You people are fucking insane. Saren looked at her, expression unchanged. We are logical. Emotion clouds judgment. Sentiment weakens resolve. We survive because we do what is necessary. And that's necessary? Ramirez pointed at the bodies. Killing your own. Yes. Vickers grabbed Ramirez's arm before she could say anything else. Not now. He turned back to Saren. How do they do it? The remote execution. Neural implants. All Kelthar soldiers are fitted with them. They monitor vitals, location, mission status. If command determines you are no longer useful, they send a signal. It stops your heart. And you have one of these? Yes. The air went cold. Everyone took a step back. I could see the calculations running through Vickers' head. If they could kill her remotely, she was a liability, a ticking bomb. Why are you still alive? He asked slowly. Saren met his eyes. Because they don't know where I am. My implant was damaged in the collapse. No signal, no tracking. As far as command knows, I'm dead. Or they're waiting, Okoye said, letting us take you back. Then they trigger it when you're in the middle of our base. Possible, Saren admitted, but unlikely. I am 1 soldier. You are 6. The math does not favor an isolated detonation. Vickers stared at her for a long moment, then made a decision. Do we leave her? What? Ramirez stepped forward. You can't. Yes, I can. She's a risk. We cut her loose, move fast, get to extraction. Command doesn't need to know. She'll die down here. That's her problem. Ramirez looked at me, then at the others. No one argued, no one spoke up. Because Vickers was right. Tactically, logically, coldly, he was right. But I couldn't move. I kept thinking about that moment at the northern barricade. When Saren had me in her sights and didn't pull the trigger, she said there was no advantage in my death at that moment. But she could have killed me and 1 less human would be fighting her people. But she didn't. Morgan. Vickers' voice was sharp. Let's move. I looked at Saren. She was watching me again. Still no fear, no pleading. Just that same steady gaze. She helped us, I said quietly. She didn't help us. Ramirez helped her. She told us about the implants, about the executions. She didn't have to. So what? We owe her now? Maybe. Vickers stepped close, voice low and hard. We don't owe the enemy anything. You understand me? Nothing. They've killed thousands of us. They'll kill thousands more. One wounded Kelthar doesn't change that. He was right. I knew he was right. But I couldn't walk away. Give me 5 minutes, I said. Said I'll cut her loose outside the tunnels. She can take her chances topside. We'll still make extraction. Morgan, 5 minutes. Vickers stared at me. I could see the war happening behind his eyes. Finally, he exhaled. 5 minutes. Then we're gone. With or without you. He turned and walked away. The others followed. Ramirez squeezed my shoulder as she passed. And then it was just me and Siren. I pulled my knife. Cut the zip ties. She rubbed her wrists slowly, eyes never leaving mine. Why? She asked. I don't know. This is illogical. I am your enemy. Yeah, I would not do this for you. I know. She studied me for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was different, quieter, almost hesitant. My people are coming. I went still. What? The invasion force. They will be here in 4 days. Maybe less. She paused. And they will kill you first. The words echoed in the tunnel. 4 days. Maybe less. Kill you first. Why are you telling me this? I asked. She looked down at her hands, then back at me. Because you chose mercy. I do not understand it, but I will not repay it with silence. How many ships? 47. Full battle group. They will sterilize the surface, collapse the tunnels, and claim Vessa as sovereignty territory. Your forces here will be annihilated. And you're just telling me why? For the first time, I saw something crack in her expression. Not much. Just a flicker. Because I am no longer sure what logic is. She paused. You should have killed me. You should have left me to die. That is what we would do. That is what makes sense. But you didn't. And now I am telling you this, which makes no sense for me. She met my eyes. Perhaps your mercy is contagious. I stood there, knife still in my hand, mind racing. 47 ships. We had maybe 3 frigates in orbit and a dozen ground units scattered across the colony. We couldn't fight that, couldn't even slow it down. Go, I said. Get out of here before my people change their minds. She nodded once, started to walk away, then stopped. Morgan. Yeah. They will not believe you. What? Your commanders. When you tell them what I said, they will think it is a trap. They will not evacuate, and when my people arrive, you will die. She was right. I knew she was right. But I couldn't think about that now. Just go. She went. I caught up with the squad 2 minutes later. Vickers didn't ask questions, didn't need to. He saw my face and knew I'd done something stupid. We made extraction on time. The dropship pulled us out of Vessa's gravity well just as the sun crested the horizon, painting the barren surface in shades of rust and copper. I watched through the porthole as the colony shrank below us, thinking about Saren's words. 4 days. Maybe less. When we docked at the orbital station, Vickers filed his report. He mentioned the contact. Mentioned the wounded Kelthar. Didn't mention that I let her go. I appreciated that. Didn't deserve it, but appreciated it. I went to command myself an hour later. Captain Rourke was in his office, staring at tactical displays, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. Probably hadn't. Morgan, he said without looking up. What do you need? Sir, I have intelligence about an incoming Kelthar assault. That got his attention. He turned, eyes sharp. Go on. I told him everything. The encounter, the warning, the timeline. 47 ships, 4 days. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. And your source for this intelligence is a wounded enemy combatant you encountered in the tunnels? Yes, sir. Who could have been lying? She could have, but I don't think she was. Why not? Because she didn't have to tell me anything. I was letting her go. She was free. She warned me anyway. Rourke studied me for a long moment. And you let her go? Yes, sir. You released an enemy combatant without authorization? Yes, sir. He should have arrested me, should have thrown me in the brig and written me up for a court-martial. Instead, he sighed, rubbed his eyes, and pulled up a star chart. We've been tracking Calthar fleet movements for the past month, he said. Intelligence flagged unusual activity near the Vessa sector, ship concentrations, communication blackouts. But nothing concrete. He zoomed in on our position. If your source is right, and they hit us with a full battle group, we're done. We can't hold, can't even evacuate everyone in time. So what do? We prepare, quietly. I'll send the intel up the chain, but don't expect miracles. Earth Command won't authorize a full withdrawal based on one enemy soldier's word. He looked at me. But I can start moving non-essential personnel off-world. Slowly. Make it look like routine rotations. If your Calthar friend was telling the truth, we might save a few hundred lives. If she was lying... He didn't finish the sentence. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. If this turns out to be bullshit, you'll wish I'd locked you up instead. I left his office feeling like I'd just bet everything on a single hand of cards. And maybe I had. Over the next 3 days, I watched the station's population drop. Transports came and went, pulling out civilians, techs, anyone who wasn't combat essential. The official line was operational redeployment. Everyone knew what it really meant. We were preparing to lose. Vickers pulled me aside on the second day. Heard you went to Rourke. Yeah, heard he's actually listening. For now. Vickers shook his head. You're either the bravest or dumbest bastard I've ever met. Probably both, he laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. If she was telling the truth, you saved lives. If she wasn't, well, we're all fucked anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. That's a cheerful thought. I'm a cheerful guy. He clapped my shoulder. Get some rest. If they're coming, we'll need you sharp. I tried. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Saren's face. Heard her voice. They will kill you first. On the morning of the 4th day, the alarms went off. 47 Calthar warships dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system, right on schedule. The station went to full combat alert. Crews scrambled to their posts. Pilots sprinted to their fighters. Marines locked down the corridors. I grabbed my rifle and reported to my squad's rally point, adrenaline burning through my veins. Rourke's voice crackled over the station-wide comm. All personnel, this is not a drill. Calthar battle group inbound. ETA to engagement range, 90 minutes. Defense fleet is moving to intercept. Ground units, prepare for boarding actions. 90 minutes. That's all the time we had, all the time anyone had. Vickers gathered the squad in the armory. Listen up. We hold this station as long as we can. If they board us, we make them pay for every inch. If it looks like we're going down, we fall back to the evacuation shuttles. No heroes, no last stands. We live to fight another day. Clear? Clear, we said in unison, but I could see it in their faces. They didn't believe it. None of us did. There were no evacuation shuttles big enough, no fallback positions safe enough. This was it. The Calthar had come, just like Saren said they would, and we were going to die. 60 minutes to contact. I checked my rifle for the 10th time. Loaded, safety off, scope calibrated, everything perfect, everything useless. Ramirez sat next to me, cleaning her sidearm with the same obsessive care. You think she made it out? She asked quietly. Your Calthar? I don't know. You think she knew about the attack? Yeah, I think she knew. Ramirez nodded slowly. Then she saved us, or tried to. Maybe. No, maybe. Rourke evacuated 300 people because of what you told him, because of what she told you. 300 people who would have died today. She looked at me. You did good, Morgan. I didn't feel like I did good. I felt like I'd just delayed the inevitable. 30 minutes. The station shuddered as our defense fleet engaged the Kael'thar vanguard. Distant explosions lit up the viewports. Energy weapons painted the void in streaks of blue and white. Ships died, ours and theirs, but there were so many more of them. The comm crackled. Boarding pods inbound. Brace for impact. 10 seconds later, the first pods hit. They punched through the station's hull like bullets through paper. Kael'thar shock troops poured out, moving fast and coordinated, cutting through our defenses with surgical precision. We met them at every junction, every corridor, every choke point. We fought like hell. It wasn't enough. They pushed us back, section by section. Our Marines died. Our automated turrets died. Vickers took a plasma bolt to the chest and went down hard. Ramirez dragged him behind cover, screaming for a medic, but there were no medics left, just fighters, just dying. I fired until my rifle overheated, switched to my sidearm, kept firing. Kael'thar soldiers fell, but more took their place, always more. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles, filling gaps, never stopping. Rodriguez went down next, then Okoye, then Chen. Ramirez and I fell back to the inner corridors, moving on instinct, firing blind around corners. My ears were ringing, my hands were numb, my throat tasted like copper and smoke. Morgan. Ramirez pointed down the hallway. Shuttle Bay, if we can make it. A plasma bolt took her in the shoulder. She spun, hit the deck, didn't get up. I grabbed her, started dragging her toward the shuttle bay. She was heavy, too heavy, but I didn't stop, couldn't stop. 20 feet, 10 feet, the shuttle bay doors were open. I could see the last transport warming up, crew waving at me, shouting for me to hurry. 5 feet. A shadow moved at the edge of my vision. I turned, saw the Kael'thar soldier raising his weapon, saw the barrel align with my chest, saw my death in his cold black eyes. Then his head exploded. He dropped. Behind him, holding a rifle, stood Saren. She was bleeding again, worse than before. Her uniform was scorched, one arm hanging limp. But she was alive, and she'd just saved me. Go, she said. I stared at her. What are you? Go, now, before more come. Come with us. I can't. They'll kill me, or you will. Either way, I'm dead. Saren, you gave me mercy. I gave you warning. We're even. She met my eyes one last time. Now go. Live. Tell your people what we are. Tell them what's coming. Maybe they'll listen. Maybe they'll prepare. Maybe next time they'll win. She turned and fired down the corridor, covering me. I dragged Ramirez into the shuttle. The crew pulled us in, slammed the doors, hit the engines. We launched just as the station's core went critical, tearing itself apart in a bloom of white fire. I watched through the porthole as Vessa Station died, as our people died, as Saren died. 300 people survived. 300 out of 2,000. Because one enemy soldier chose honesty over silence, and one human soldier chose mercy over hate. The brass debriefed me for 6 hours, wanted to know everything. Every word, every detail. I told them, all of it. When I mentioned Saren's warning, they went quiet. When I told them she died covering my escape, they went quieter. Captain Rourke came to see me in the medbay afterward. I was lying on a cot, staring at the ceiling, trying not to think about the faces I'd never see again. You were right, he said. She told the truth. Intel confirms it. The Kael'thar planned this strike for months. Your warning gave us time. Not much, but enough. He paused. You saved lives, Morgan. Remember that. I didn't feel like I saved anything. I felt like I'd watched the world burn and walked away. But Rourke wasn't done. There's something else. After the attack, we intercepted Kael'thar command transmissions. They were looking for someone. A deserter. A scout named Saren, who went dark after a tunnel collapse. He pulled up a datapad, showed me a string of text. They issued a termination order for her 3 days before the attack. She knew she was marked for death, knew her own people wanted her gone, and she still warned you. He let that sink in. Why? I asked. I don't know. Maybe she was defecting. Maybe she was just tired. Or maybe... He hesitated. Maybe she saw something in you. Something worth saving. He left me alone after that. I lay there thinking about mercy, about choices, about what it costs to be human in a universe that rewards cruelty and punishes kindness. And I thought about Saren, expendable, marked for death, alone in the dark, and still, somehow, choosing to save me. I don't know if that makes her a traitor or a hero. I don't know if it even matters. What I know is this: 300 people lived because she spoke, because I listened. Because for one brief moment, 2 enemies chose something other than hate. The war didn't end. The Kael'thar didn't stop. They kept coming, kept killing, kept expanding, and we kept fighting. But something changed in me that day. I stopped seeing them as machines, started seeing them as people. People shaped by logic, by efficiency, by a culture that valued survival over compassion. But still people, still capable of choice. And if Saren could choose mercy, even at the cost of everything, maybe we all could. 6 months after Vessa, they promoted me to sergeant. Said I showed initiative under fire, leadership, tactical awareness, all the words that mean you survived when others didn't. I didn't want the promotion, didn't want the responsibility. But you don't get to say no in wartime. So I took the stripes, took command of a new squad, and went back to the fight. The war had changed, or maybe we had. After Vessa, Earth Command started listening to intelligence that didn't fit their models, started preparing for attacks they couldn't predict, started treating the Kael'thar like thinking, adapting enemies instead of mindless machines. It didn't win us the war, but it kept us alive longer. My squad was assigned to patrol duty in the Arcturus sector, guarding mining operations on frozen moons and dead rocks. It was tedious work, boring even, until it wasn't. We were 3 weeks into a rotation on a moon called Frostfall when we picked up a distress signal. Automated, looping. Coming from a crashed Kael'thar shuttle about 15 kilometers from our position. Command ordered us to investigate. Could be a trap, could be survivors. Either way, we needed to know. We geared up and moved out, hiking through ice fields under a black sky. The crash site came into view an hour later, a twisted wreck of metal half buried in a frozen ravine, smoke still rising from the engines. My new squad, Kowalski, Dim, Hassan, Price, and Nguyen, fanned out, weapons ready. I approached the wreck slowly, scanning for movement. There were bodies inside. 3 of them, Kael'thar, dead on impact by the look of it. But the distress beacon was still transmitting, which meant someone had activated it after the crash. Sergeant, Hassan called from the far side of the wreck. Got a survivor. I moved to his position. There, huddled behind a piece of broken hull, was a young Kael'thar. Male, barely out of adolescence if I was reading their physiology right. He was injured, leg bent at a wrong angle, burns across his torso, but alive and terrified. He saw us and tried to scramble back, hit the hull, had nowhere to go. His hand fumbled for a sidearm that wasn't there. Easy, I said, lowering my rifle slightly. We're not going to hurt you. He stared at me, breathing fast, eyes wide. Then he spoke, voice shaking. You're human. Yeah. You should kill me. Probably, but I'm not going to. He looked confused. Why? Because you're no threat. You're hurt, unarmed, and alone. Killing you would just be murder. That is illogical. Yeah, well, we're good at that. Kowalski moved closer, medical kit in hand. Let me look at that leg. The young Kael'thar flinched back. Don't. Relax. I'm a medic. I'm going to stabilize it. Then we'll get you back to base. Command will figure out what to do with you. Command will execute me. Maybe. Maybe not. Either way, you'll live long enough to find out. Kowalski worked quickly, setting the leg, applying a splint. The Kael'thar winced but didn't cry out. When it was done, he looked at me again, something shifting in his expression. What's your name? I asked. Viel. I'm Morgan. His eyes widened. Morgan, the one from Vessa. I froze. How do you know about that? Everyone knows. There are stories about the human who spared Saren, about the warning, about the mercy. He paused. Some say you're a fool, some say you're a threat, but others... He trailed off. Others, what? Others say you're proof. Proof of what? That we're wrong. About you. About everything. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if there was anything to say. We brought Viel back to base. Handed him over to intelligence. I expected that to be the end of it. But 3 days later, Captain Rourke called me to his office. We've been interrogating your prisoner, he said. Or trying to. He won't talk, won't answer questions, just keeps asking for one thing. What? You. I went to the holding cells. Viel was sitting on a bench, hands bound, looking small and lost. When he saw me, he sat up straighter. You came. Yeah. What do you want? To talk. So talk. He hesitated, then spoke. Saren was my unit leader. She trained me, taught me how to survive. She was efficient, logical, everything a Kael'thar should be. He looked down at his hands. But after she disappeared, I found something. A personal log. Hidden. She recorded it before the mission to Vessa. What did it say? That she was tired. Tired of the killing. Tired of the logic. Tired of being a tool. He met my eyes. She said she wanted to understand why humans fight. Why you sacrifice for each other. Why you choose mercy even when it costs you everything. She said maybe your weakness was actually strength. I felt something crack in my chest. She wrote that. Yes, and then she died saving you. So I need to know, was she right? Is your mercy strength, or is it just another way to lose? I sat down across from him. I don't know. Honestly, some days I think it's the dumbest thing we do. We hesitate, we doubt, we second-guess ourselves. It gets us killed. But other days... I paused. BD, other days I think it's the only thing that makes us worth saving. I don't understand. Neither do I. Not completely. But here's what I know. Saren warned me about the attack. She didn't have to. She chose to. And that choice saved 300 lives. Maybe more, if you count what we learned from it. So yeah, maybe mercy is weakness. Maybe it's illogical. But it's also the only reason I'm still alive. Viel sat there, processing. Then he asked, what will happen to me? I don't know. Command will probably send you to a POW camp, maybe try to trade you back to your people. They won't take me. I'm damaged, inefficient. Then I guess you'll stay here. As a prisoner. For now. He looked at me for a long moment. If I give you information about Kael'thar tactics, fleet movements, supply lines, will you treat me with mercy? I leaned forward. I'll treat you like a person, whether you give us information or not. He seemed to struggle with that. like the concept didn't fit into any framework he understood. Finally, he nodded. "Then I will help you. Not because I want to betray my people, but because Saren believed there was another way. And I want to know if she was right." Over the next 3 months, Vale gave us intelligence that changed the war. Not enough to win it, but enough to stop losing. We learned how the Kelthar thought, how they planned, how they adapted. We learned their weaknesses, their blind spots, and we learned something else, something more important. Not all of them believed, not all of them wanted the endless expansion, the cold logic, the ruthless efficiency. Some of them, like Saren, like Vile, were tired of being machines, tired of pretending emotion was weakness. Word spread. Other Kelthar started defecting. Not many, just a handful. But it was enough to start cracks in their perfect unity. Earth Command didn't know what to do with them. POW camps weren't designed for defectors, so they created a new program, integration units. Small teams of humans and Kelthar working together on intelligence operations, humanitarian missions, even joint combat ops. They asked me to lead one. I said yes. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, teaching humans to trust Kelthar, teaching Kelthar to trust humans, breaking down years of hate and fear and trauma. Some days it felt impossible. Some days it was, but we made it work, slowly, painfully. One mission at a time, and somewhere along the way, I realized what Saren had given me. It wasn't just a warning. It wasn't just information. It was hope. Hope that enemies could become allies, that logic could coexist with compassion, that mercy wasn't weakness. It was the hardest, bravest thing any of us could choose. The war didn't end cleanly. Wars never do. There was no grand treaty, no final battle, no moment when everything suddenly made sense. Just a slow, grinding shift. Territory disputes became negotiations, raids became patrols, enemies became complicated. 3 years after Vessa, the Kelthar sovereignty agreed to a ceasefire. Not peace, not yet, but a pause, a chance to talk, to try something other than killing. I was there when the first official delegation arrived at Earth, stood in the hangar bay with 100 other soldiers, watching Kelthar diplomats step off their shuttle and onto human soil for the first time in history. And I thought about Saren, about the choice she made, about the price she paid. She never saw this, never knew if her mercy would matter. She just chose it anyway. That's what makes us human, I think. We choose things that don't make sense. We sacrifice for strangers. We show kindness to enemies. We hope when logic says hope is pointless. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe surprises us. Captain Rourke found me after the ceremony. He'd been promoted to Admiral, led the integration efforts from the top. He looked older, tired, but there was something lighter in his eyes now. "Hell of a thing," he said, watching the diplomats disappear into the conference halls. "Yeah. You ever think about how it started? One patrol, one enemy soldier, one choice. Every day." He nodded. "You know what the Kelthar call you now? I don't want to know. The Mercy Giver. They have stories about you, legends. Some of them think you're dangerous, others think you're the most human thing they've ever encountered." He smiled. "Me, I think you're both. I'm just a soldier." "No, you're more than that. You're proof that we can be better, that we don't have to be what the war made us." He clapped my shoulder. "Keep proving it, Sergeant. We're going to need that in the years ahead." He walked away, leaving me alone in the hangar. I stood there for a long time, thinking about the faces I'd lost. Vickers, Rodriguez, Okoye, Chen, Ramirez, who survived her wounds but never came back to active duty. All the others whose names I carried like stones. And I thought about the faces I'd saved. 300 people from Vessa. The soldiers who learned from Saren's warning. The defectors who found a new home. The children who would grow up in a universe where humans and Kael'thar could sit at the same table. I don't know if Saren would be proud. I don't know if she'd even care. But I know what she taught me. That mercy is a choice. A hard, dangerous, often stupid choice. But it's the one that makes us human. The one that says we're more than just survival machines. The one that whispers, even in the darkest moments, that maybe, just maybe, there's a better way. 4 days after I let her go, Saren died. But what she started didn't. It lived on. In every soldier who chose to spare an enemy. In every Kael'thar who chose to defect. In every human who chose to see the person behind the weapon. Mercy has a price. Someone always pays it. But sometimes, if you're lucky, someone else picks up what you started and carries it forward. I'm still carrying it, every day, every mission, every choice, because that's what humans do. We choose mercy, even when it's hard, even when it costs us everything, even when the universe tells us we're fools for trying, and maybe we are, maybe we're the most illogical, irrational, inefficient species in the galaxy. But we're also the ones who change the script, who break the cycles, who look at the impossible and say, "Watch me." That's humanity. That's us. And I wouldn't trade it for all the logic in the universe. I left the hangar and went back to my quarters, sat down at my desk, pulled out a data pad, and I started writing. Not a report, not a tactical analysis, just a letter. To no one, to everyone, to Saren, wherever she was. You asked me why I spared you, I wrote. I still don't have a good answer. But I think that's the point. We don't always need good answers. Sometimes we just need to choose something better than hate, something harder than revenge, something that says, even in the middle of a war, we're still human, still capable of seeing the person in the enemy, still capable of mercy. I paused, fingers hovering over the keys. You saved 300 lives, maybe more, maybe thousands, if you count everything that came after. Not bad for one wounded soldier who should have died in a tunnel. I smiled, even though my eyes were burning. I hope it was worth it. I hope you found whatever you were looking for, and I hope, wherever you are, you know that it mattered. You mattered. I saved the file, encrypted it, added it to the archive of classified records that would be sealed for 50 years. Maybe someone would read it someday. Maybe they'd understand. Or maybe it didn't matter, because I knew. And that was enough. The galaxy is cold. The universe is indifferent. Wars are won by firepower and tactics and ruthless efficiency. But humanity, we're the ones who bring warmth to the cold, who care in a universe that doesn't, who choose mercy in a war that punishes it. And that's not weakness, that's our strength. That's what makes us dangerous. That's what makes us human. I stood up, put on my jacket, and walked out into the corridor. There was work to do, patrols to run, defectors to train, a fragile peace to protect. And somewhere out there, in the vast dark between the stars, other soldiers were making choices. Other enemies were becoming allies. Other people were learning what Saren taught me, that mercy is contagious, and once it starts, you can't stop it. I smiled. Let it spread. Let the whole damn galaxy learn what it means to be human. We're just getting started. Nin